Here on this channel, I like to review video game guns and rank them in a tier list based on the overall quality of their design and implementation. Previously, I covered all the ballistic firearms added by Starfield's various DLCs, and now, it's time to cover the energy weapons. If you haven't seen the previous video, or my videos on the base game of Starfield, then you should probably check out those videos before continuing this one. Or after. It doesn't really matter honestly. Anyway, let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's continue where we left off with the MGP Laser. Basically, it's just like the MGP ballistic rifle, but they converted it into a laser gun. So instead of inserting a magazine with bullets, you insert a blocky battery. It's a pretty good idea. If you ask me, this is how laser guns should be built. They don't have to be big, blocky masses of plastic with no sense of ergonomics. They should be comfortable to use and have decent handling. The guns we have today are highly ergonomic, so why not give a laser gun the same layout so it's more user-friendly? I remember seeing this Chinese laser gun, which basically looks like a fat QBZ bullpup rifle. That makes perfect sense. Their soldiers are used to shooting the QBZ, so they gave their laser gun a similar layout. Now this is what peak sci-fi gun design looks like. It's sleek without a bunch of random greebles and doodads all over the place. It is bulky, but that's probably because it needs all that space to store all the fancy laser components. Over time, as this technology improves, it'll likely get smaller and more powerful at the same time. So in the future, it's very likely that laser guns will look very similar to ballistic rifles. And I'm willing to bet there's going to be some laser guns that look just like AR-15s. Kinda like the MGP. Overall, this laser gun looks pretty good. It's not super greebly, but there are some little greebles here and there. I think the worst part is the exposed wiring. That could very easily get caught on something and ripped up. It's better to have all those critical components inside the gun, not on the outside. But if the wires were inside the gun, then you wouldn't be able to see all the cool sci-fi greebles. Like, yeah, I get it. More details can be cool, and I don't necessarily hate the exposed wiring, but in terms of practicality and realism, the wires should be inside the gun. This is like running an AK with no dust cover, just so you can see the internals move around. It does work, and it looks cool, but no dust cover means that all kinds of gunk could very easily get into the gun and foul it up. It also has a super bulky grip like the regular MGP, which is not ideal, but I already went over all that in part 1. Besides that, I think the design of the MGP Laser is pretty decent. I think it's the best looking laser gun in all of Starfield, and it's certainly the best in terms of ergonomics. It's got very practical looking grips and stocks. While all the other laser guns look super blocky and bulky, they just look uncomfortable to operate. When it comes to function though, this laser gun is completely wrong! Bethesda still has no clue what a laser gun is. You see, lasers are superheated beams of light. They travel at the speed of light and deal damage through heat. Light doesn't have mass, so lasers don't produce recoil. Or if you want to get extremely technical, light does carry momentum, so it may produce some recoil, but it's so low that it's not really perceivable. At most, the recoil would be comparable to a BB gun. Even if you want to increase the recoil for the sake of gameplay balancing, it shouldn't kick much harder than a 22. So then why does this laser gun kick like a battle rifle? It beats up your shoulder harder than my stepdad beat my mom. Well, that's because they simply copy and pasted the animations from the regular MGP, with no adjustments. The recoil is greatly lowered with the automatic version, but that's still way too high. Even worse, these supposed beams of light don't travel at the speed of light. They have a very obvious travel time. There's that, and it doesn't shoot out a constant steady beam. There's always pauses between shots. So if you combine all those factors, this is not a laser gun. It may look like a laser gun, and it may be labeled as such, but really, it shoots out fast-moving bolts of plasma. It's more like a blaster from Star Wars then. I'm guessing that's where Bethesda got their knowledge of laser guns from. These dorks just watched Star Wars and thought the blasters were laser guns, so they made all their laser guns function like blasters, when they're supposed to be laser guns. These dorks are total LARPers. True sci-fi nerds know the difference between lasers and blasters. Dorks just think they're all the same thing because they shoot red beam. These posers don't really care to learn how these energy weapons work. They don't have a true burning passion for sci-fi weapon design, so they just turn out some random crap that doesn't have any deep thought put into it. As a true sci-fi enjoyer, I can't stand when game developers make a laser gun. That's not a laser gun. It destroys my immersion and makes the game literally unplayable! It's very disappointing that Bethesda didn't correct this huge glaring issue with any of the DLC laser guns. I pointed this issue out 2.5 years ago, and I was hoping they would hear my cries. but it seems I was merely screaming into the void. Sadly, all the DLC laser guns in Starfield are completely wrong and highly unimmersive. I don't necessarily mind that they function like blasters, that's fine. I think there should be both blasters and laser guns, but the problem is that all these energy weapons are built and labeled as laser guns when they function like blasters. In the end, I suppose the MGP Laser ain't too bad for a Bethesda design. It's certainly the best looking laser gun in the whole game, but just like all the other laser guns, it's not actually a laser gun. The very best I can do here is C tier. Before we move on, I want to ask y'all a question. Do you like collecting rare loot? Do you want the chance to win $500? Well, you can do exactly that with today's sponsor, Whatnot. Basically, Whatnot is a shopping platform centered around live streaming. There's electronics and consoles, physical games and music CDs, tools and gear, clothes and shoes, Legos and toys, even snacks and candy. You name it, they got it. The coolest part is that you can participate in auctions in real time, and bidding is super easy. All you gotta do is swipe to bid. You can chat with the seller directly, which makes shopping a lot more fun and interactive. You can ask questions or make certain requests. Whatnot is especially awesome for supporting small business owners or individuals who are just looking to clear out their stuff. I'm a big fan of retro gaming, so I hopped into a stream with this guy who was selling PS3 games, and I scooped up the entire Uncharted trilogy for like $12. I also got Just Cause 2 and Assassin's Creed Rogue for just a few bucks. That's an absolute steal. I'm really into music too, as you can tell. So I hopped into this live stream of this lady selling a huge CD collection, and I snagged up a bunch of bangers for like $2 each. You can find a whole bunch of hidden gems on Whatnot, all for bargain prices. So be sure to check out Whatnot by scanning my QR code or by using my link in the description. When you do so, you'll get a $15 credit for your first purchase. So, you know all those PS3 games I got? That basically makes the whole thing free. That's a deal so good, it should be a crime. Not only that, but if you follow me on Whatnot, at BrandyBoy42069, you'll be entered to win a $500 giveaway. One of my fans will be guaranteed to win, and the winner will be selected 30 days after this video is posted. So, be sure to check out Whatnot before time is up. Huge thanks to Whatnot for sponsoring the video. Now, let's get back to it. For another laser rifle, we have the Aphelion. It's like the opposite of the MGP. It's extremely fat and bulky. From far away, it looks like a giant space cruiser. For energy weapons, I don't mind a little bit of bulk. You could argue it needs that extra space to store more fancy laser components to make it more powerful. But even then, this one has a bit too much bulk going on. It really harms its visual appeal and aura. I can't take this thing seriously when it looks like an obese Nerf gun. The front end being thick is fair, I suppose. That's where the battery's at. So, naturally, it's gonna have a thick front end. You know, it's like a PP-19, but laser gun. It's just like the Equinox from the base game then. In fact, I think it uses the same exact reload animation. Damn you, Todd! This is just an Equinox reskin, isn't it? And now that I think about it, wouldn't it be a terrible idea to use the battery as the handguard? I assume it would get really hot and cook your hand. It would probably make more sense to put the battery in a more traditional spot. You know, just like the MGP. Either that, or it could have a bullpup style magazine. I think a P90 style top mounted magazine in particular would work really good for this design. It would be just like the Beowulf then. The Aphelion is clearly inspired by the Beowulf's aesthetics. It has the same exact art style going on, so they might as well treat it like a laser gun conversion for the Beowulf. Same layout, but it shoots lasers. And you know what else? The magazine should auto-eject from the gun, so you don't have to worry about burning your hands. Now that is a genius idea. But just like the Beowulf, this whole golden metal frame thing is useless and should be deleted. It serves no purpose, other than to add dead weight and random detail to the gun. And why does it need to have a shock absorber? Are you telling me this laser gun kicks so hard you need a shock absorber to tame it? Yeah, right, buddy. All this stuff is just random, greebly sci-fi nonsense. They're not too far away from a decent design though. You just gotta slim it up, remove the greebles, and change the position of the magazine. Then, the Aphelion ends up looking pretty good. This new version is sleek and simple. It's peak sci-fi gun design. Now the function of the Aphelion is pretty interesting. It's a 3-round burst by default, and it deals fire damage. Wow, a laser gun that actually deals damage through heat. That's awesome! But sadly, it still suffers from the other problems I pointed out with the MGP. High recoil, no constant beam, and perceivable travel time. So really, it's more like a plasma gun that deals burn damage. The recoil is rather low though, so I can almost trick myself into believing it's a true laser gun. But you know what I can't ignore? That god-awful bullet counter. Or a laser counter, I guess you'd call it. Instead of simply showing you a number, you get an analog-style display with little orange rectangles. That's an extremely inefficient way to count your shots. You have to sit there and count up all the little rectangles in your head. Simply looking at a number would be way faster. It doesn't help that the rectangles don't subtract one by one as you shoot. They're stacked in columns of 6, and you have to shoot all 6 rounds in that column before it disappears. So if you shoot 3 rounds, the bullet counter tells you that you still have all 30. And weirdly enough, the second to last column disappears prematurely. It vanishes once you get to 9 rounds, when it should go away after getting down to 6. Even worse, when you change the magazine capacity with upgrades, the bullet counter doesn't change to show how many rounds there are. There's always 30 rectangles, no matter what the actual capacity is. So I guess it just goes based on fractions or whatever. With the automatic conversion, for example, it has 42 rounds. After I shoot 8 times, it subtracts 6 from the bullet counter. But once I get down to 13, the bullet counter shows 6 rounds left. Jeez, they didn't perform any quality control checks whatsoever. They just give it this random analog-style bullet counter for the sake of looking cool. But it's not very cool. It's actually turbo cringe. It's completely useless and non-functional. Even if it was functional, it still wouldn't be very useful, because you can just look at your heads-up display. Wow, these guys must be stupid. They put in all this work to make a non-functional bullet counter, when it was completely unnecessary from the start. I'm kinda half joking here, of course. If we assume your character can see the heads-up display through their space helmet, then yeah, all the bullet counters in this game are useless. But if we assume the heads-up display can only be seen by the player, then sure, bullet counters are a good idea. That's pretty much all I got for the Aphelion. It's fat and cringe, and the bullet counter is completely broken. At the very least, it's not quite as bad as some of the other guns. I think I'm gonna put this one in the D tier. Next up is a little laser pistol called the Cathode. This one ain't too bad. It's got a simple blocky shape. It's like a laser Glock. I think the overall look is pretty good. I really dig the black and gold combo especially. But I absolutely despise that tacky knuckle guard. This is a super common trope in sci-fi. There's always bound to be pistols with huge knuckle guards. It's a dumb trend that needs to go away. There's no point in putting a huge knuckle guard on a pistol. It looks dumb and it serves no purpose. Especially for this one. You already got a regular trigger guard here. So what's the point of the knuckle guard? That's like wearing 2 condoms. I'm also wondering where the mag release is, or I guess you'd call it the battery release. There doesn't seem to be any sort of button or paddle. You just rip out the battery. I was thinking it could be these little thingies jutting out on the side, but your character never touches them, so I don't know. And what's the purpose of these thingies anyway? They almost look like gas pedals. You see, a gas pedal is a pistol attachment, which gives you a nice spot to push your thumb against. That allows you to get a high and aggressive grip, which enables you to manhandle the recoil more effectively. But your character holds this pistol with a low and relaxed grip. They never touch these little thingies, so I don't know, these just seem like a pair of useless greebles to me. And man, that grip really sucks. It's super amateur. You don't have your hand up against the beaver tail. You hold it with a boomer-style teacup grip. Limp-wristing a laser pistol is crazy work. I can, however, appreciate the very clear bullet counter with big numbers. It's front and center, and right in your face, so you always know how much ammo you have left, unlike the Aphelion. The rear-mounted battery seems like a good spot too. Overall, the layout of this gun is solid. It seems functional and ergonomic. I like the super low recoil too. It's a smooth shooter, so it can almost pass as a true laser gun if you don't think about it too hard. That's all I can say for the Cathode. It's alright, I guess. Not too bad, but not amazing either. I'll put the Catheter in C tier. Now for a laser SMG/PDW, we have the Dogfight. Overall, it's not too bad. But you already know, that little frame that connects the grip to the stock is cringe and stupid. It's like a pseudo thumbhole stock. And it has a knuckle guard at the same time. Wow, how original. A sci-fi gun with a knuckle guard and a thumbhole stock. Sci-fi gun designers, please, I beg of you, stop doing this. It doesn't make the gun look sci-fi. It just makes it look dumb. If you want to give a gun these features, they have to serve a purpose. Thumbhole stocks are best used on marksman rifles and bullpups. This little frame serves no purpose on a PDW. All it does is mess up your grip, so it should be deleted entirely. Ideally, it should be more like the stock on the MP7. And thankfully, you can replace the stock with upgrades. This stock in particular looks really good. I have no complaints. But this other one has a weird sloped angle to it. You wouldn't be able to shoulder it properly. The stock should be flattened out so you can push the whole thing against your shoulder. For the knuckle guard though, in this specific instance, I can see some purpose here. This frame creates a guide for the magazine. It's just like the AA-12 in that aspect. This is really the only reason why a non-bullpup gun should ever have a knuckle guard. If it's used to create a guide for the magazine, or if it's also used as a forward grip, then sure, that's a legit reason. The whole body and receiver design is kinda weird though. It looks like the gun was split in half, but then it was reconnected by a little tube in the middle. It's designed like a space station with airlocks between rooms. I know this is a laser gun, so it doesn't have to be normal, but still, this strikes me as looking odd. The optics rail floating above the rest of the gun is certainly a choice. It looks like it's trying to mimic the look of a carry handle, because as we all know, carry handles make guns look more sci-fi. But this wouldn't be functional as a carry handle, because there's not enough space to get your fingers in there. It's not like you need a carry handle for an SMG in the first place. This thing looks super light. It's probably like 4 pounds, if that. Ideally, this gun should have a flat top railed receiver, and the receiver should be one solid piece. Now slap on that good looking stock attachment, and boom, the Dogfight looks like a legit laser PDW. But I think the worst part about the Dogfight is how close it is to your screen. You can barely see the damn thing. It feels like you're playing at 50 FOV. Bethesda, please, allow us to adjust the view model FOV. I can't stand having the gun so close to my face. It feels really awkward and cramped, like I'm pulling the gun up to my nose. That's about it for the Dogfight. It's an okay design. It's not terrible, but not great either. It's just kinda mid, so I'll put it in the C tier. It's a step above the Aphelion, that's for sure. Now for a laser sniper, we have the Resonator. I think the general shape and silhouette is fine, and I can appreciate the overall art style. It comes off as intimidating, but when it comes down to the details, it's got a lot of problems. Really, the main thing is that there's way too many random greebles. As usual, this one's got a chunky, oversized brick under the barrel. This is another textbook case of Bethesda giving a gun a super thick handguard, solely so they can reuse the generic bulky long gun idle animation. You have to wonder, what does this brick even do? Is this supposed to be the power source? But I thought the power source is the battery that you load into the gun. I don't know, man. I have no clue what this brick could possibly do. Laser gun scientist in the comment section, please tell me what you think about this design. And again, I'm not a fan of the exposed wires. For a garage-made prototype, that's fine. But for a refined, factory-built futuristic laser gun, the wires should all be inside the gun, so they can't easily be ripped up. And oh boy, the receiver area is a total mess. There's a giant gaping hole in the middle. And what's up with these little bars on the side? They look stupid and useless. All this crap needs to be deleted. The receiver should be smoothed out to look more like the handguard. I like that the default stock is collapsible, but the butt plate is way too bumpy. It should be a flat surface so it's actually comfortable to shoulder. I'll tell you what though, that upgraded marksman stock looks pretty good. It reminds me of the Magpul PRS. The only default part that looks good is the pistol grip. It looks sleek, simple, and ergonomic. It looks like something you would see on a modern rifle. The upgraded version is even better. It's a little bit thicker, and it has stippling to give you a nice, firm grip. Now that's what I'm talking about. Laser guns shouldn't have blocky, crude furniture. They should have ergonomics similar to ballistic rifles. The default scope is really goofy though. It looks like it's bent. The optical lens is above the objective lens, so that means you would need a pair of mirrors for it to actually work. That seems overly complicated for no reason. You don't need a frickin' periscope, bro. Just give it a regular scope. The other scopes look much more normal though. These aren't too bad. But looking at these smaller scopes made me notice. They aren't mounted onto the pick rail. The pick rail is over there, but the scopes are over here. It looks like the scopes are fused into the receiver. That's gotta be the dumbest shit ever. They gave it a top rail for mounting scopes, and it's not used for mounting scopes. You have to mount them directly to the receiver, which is very inconvenient. So to fix this design, the whole top of the receiver should be railed so you can easily mount scopes anywhere you want. Next are the barrels. The default barrel ain't too bad. I think it just needs this little greebly chunk on the top to be deleted, and it's good to go. The heavy barrel, though, is an absolute disaster. They tacked on a whole bunch of random bullshit. It looks like a fucking truss bridge. What purpose could all this bullshit possibly serve? All it does is make the gun heavier and more ugly. And there's no point to this metal heat shield either. It's way too far forward to ever be touched by your hands. And you already got a normal handguard anyway. But if this heat shield replaced the upper handguard, then that would be fine. And it would look pretty cool. Once you delete all that crap and move the heat shield, the heavy barrel looks much better. I think the best looking one is the fluted barrel. I really like that spiraling pattern. It's very cool and very functional. A fluted barrel slightly reduces weight while keeping structural integrity, and it can also help a little bit with cooling and heat dispersion. Lastly, there's the long barrel, which has a really nice style to it. But damn, it's freakishly long. What is this, like a 4-foot barrel? This shit is comically elongated. It's about the same length as a tank rifle barrel. And what's up with this greeble under the barrel? It almost looks like an upside-down carry handle. You know, like the carry handle on the Shy-Tac Intervention. That seems to be where they got the inspiration from. That's a pretty cool idea, actually. But the carry handle should be mounted further back, so it's closer to the center of gravity of the weapon. If it's mounted too far forward, then the weight distribution won't be balanced. The whole thing will tilt to one side as you try to carry it around. Basically, this carry handle should be placed where the useless brick is, and the useless brick should be deleted. There we go. That's a lot better. Now it's actually functional. The long barrel itself should also be cut down by like a whole foot. Maybe even 2. Cause why exactly would you need such a long barrel for a laser rifle? It's not like that extra barrel length would increase the velocity of the laser. That shit's already going at the speed of light. Or at least, it should be. But the laser guns in Starfield are all frauds that don't function like lasers. But you know what I mean. The lasers should travel at the speed of light. Increasing the effective range of a laser gun is more about the focusing lens, not the barrel length. And yeah, you can attach various lenses for the laser guns. This thingy on the front end, for example, looks like a fat tank rifle muzzle brake, but it's actually a focusing lens. That's pretty neat. I like that idea. You can also attach a suppressor, but why would a suppressor ever be necessary on a laser rifle? Lasers are just beams of light. They don't produce sound. Again, this is another problem caused by Bethesda confusing lasers with blasters. They think that laser guns make the Star Wars pew-pew noise, when in reality, they're silent. The only sound you'll hear is the target itself. Some materials make weird noises when being hit by a laser gun. Or I guess for a super powerful futuristic laser gun, it may produce some noise, but it wouldn't be the laser itself. It would just be the internal parts buzzing. It'd be more like a faint than a Hollywood pew-pew. I think so, at least. I'm not entirely sure, because I don't own a super duper powerful handheld laser gun from the 24th century. So if there's any laser gun scientists in the comments, feel free to tell me your thoughts on how a super powerful laser gun would actually sound, or if it would make any sound at all. I can tell you for sure that there's no reason to attach a traditional rifle suppressor to a laser gun. That ain't gonna do anything. Man, all of this nonsense could have been avoided if Bethesda simply made these energy weapons as plasma blasters from the start. That seems to be what they wanted to do, but they ended up making laser guns, and they labeled them as such. But okay, next part is the magazine well. It's built like a cage. It's a skeletonized magwell. A magwell is a good idea, but this one looks supremely unergonomic. It's really long and straight, with no flare. So it'd be kinda awkward to shimmy a mag in there. You'd have to line up the magazine, or the battery, perfectly. And if you miss the magwell by 1mm, you'll mess up the reload because there's no flare to it. There's no room for error. You can even see during the reload. Your character doesn't line up the battery properly. It just clips through the magwell. Wow, they didn't even try. A shorter and wider magwell with a flare is much more ergonomic. You don't have to be pinpoint accurate. You can just throw the magazine in there, and the flare makes it funnel in very smooth. So, let's do that for the Resonator. Let's cut down this stupid magwell and give it a little more flare to make reloads more smooth. Looking at this reload also made me notice, there's no mag release to be found on this rifle. That's pretty much the standard for Starfield's energy weapons though, so I'm not surprised. It should definitely have a mag release though. Let's give it a paddle release. There we go, that's better. I'm also wondering what's up with the charging handle. Why would you need a charging handle on a laser gun? It's not like you need a reciprocating bolt to load rounds into a chamber. You just charge it up with a battery, and it shoots. Again, Bethesda has no clue what a laser gun is. The designer just threw a random moving part on here because they think every gun needs to be cocked when reloading. All around, the regulator is quite a huge mess. It's super greebly, and as usual, it doesn't function like a true laser gun. I think the very best I can do here is D tier. The overall style isn't bad, but these guys definitely need some guidance on how exactly an energy weapon should be built. We can use the same parts and textures, but a lot of stuff needs to be deleted or shifted around to make it more ergonomic and functional. Compare the default Resonator to my personal redesign, and you can see a huge difference. This one is total nonsense, and the other one is a cool-looking, functional laser gun. It's way better. Definitely A tier. Maybe even S tier. The other new sniper is the Novastrike. This one isn't a laser gun, it's a particle beam accelerator. Don't ask me how they work, I have no clue. However, I can tell you it makes no sense how the beam doesn't shoot from the muzzle. It looks fine when hip firing, but when using a scope, it looks like the beam shoots way above your head. That's quite a huge immersion break and error. It's almost unplayable. Besides that, I can appreciate the simplistic design here. It's very refreshing to see a sci-fi gun without a whole bunch of random greebles. Sci-fi guns should strive to be sleek and stylish, not ugly and littered with nonsense. So, I like what they're going for, but there are some problems with this design. The first one is that big, stupid, bulky grip. We already know why that's the case. Ideally, the grip should be shrunk down, and it should be scooted forward. Maybe even flip it around. Okay, that looks better. Also, there's no trigger guard whatsoever. Technically, a trigger guard isn't mandatory, but it can help prevent unwanted discharges should you accidentally drop the weapon. So let's go ahead and give it a proper trigger guard. Another design quirk is the big hole in the middle of the receiver. I don't know how this type of energy weapon works, but having a big hole in the receiver sure seems like a problem. So let's fill that in. And there you go. Now the Novastrike looks pretty decent. But as usual, this gun has no magazine release, so you just rip out the magazine. And the reload animation looks super jank. The way you move your hand feels really robotic. It's like it's skipping every other frame. And at release, the reload was totally broken. This gun was quite literally unplayable. And I mean literally for real this time. It was straight up bugged. You couldn't reload the damn thing. After you shot through the first mag, that was it. You weren't able to take out the magazine. Probably because there's no magazine release. It's just stuck in there. The only way to reload the gun was to unequip it, then re-equip it. Sadly, I don't have any footage of said bug, but I can assure you, it was a very real problem. I'm not making shit up. Tons of people reported it. It was quite a big scandal back when Trackers Alliance released in 2024. Well, it wasn't really that big of a scandal. There was only like 12 people playing Starfield still. This is a classic case of premium Bethesda quality control. The fact that this gun was literally unreloadable proved that they didn't so much as playtest it for 1 second. They did fix the issue a couple weeks after release, but it was only because everyone was yelling at them to do so. To release a paid DLC gun with such a huge game-breaking bug is inexcusable. Bethesda truly does not care about quality. They just pump out SLOP and expect you to buy it without question, then get excited for next product. I really don't know what else I can say about the Novastrike. It's, okay, I guess. Not quite as bad as the Resonator, but not nearly good enough for B tier either. If this was the release version, it would go in the Abyss tier, no doubt. But with the fixed version, I think I'll put the Novastrike in the C tier. There's also the Plasma Cutter, which isn't really intended to be a weapon. It's an industrial tool. You see, plasma cutters are used to cut metal with a superheated beam of ionized gas, also known as plasma. They cut through metal fast and clean, and with great precision. So if a plasma cutter can cut through metal like butter, then oh my goodness, I wonder what kind of damage it would do to a human. Especially this one, it's freaking huge. It must be super powerful. But turns out, the damage output is kinda lame. It doesn't cut people clean in half, sadly. It just kinda tickles them, and they die slowly. Or I guess it kills low-level enemies pretty quick, but it sure takes a while to kill the high-level sponges. It's really hard to tell if a weapon is powerful or underpowered with how shitty the balancing is in this game. In terms of the visual design, it's another obese Bethesda heavy weapon, so I don't really like it. It's just fugly. Sure, it's an industrial tool, so it doesn't have to be pretty or ergonomic. But does it have to be this huge? Real plasma cutters aren't this big. It's just a box with a little tube and a torch that shoots out plasma. If there's anyone watching this video who works with plasma cutters, please let me know what you think about this design. I feel like it would be hard to make precise cuts with this thing, since your grip is so far away from the muzzle. You just gotta start blasting and use the plasma beam to aim afterward. Not only that, but I bet you would get tired real quick from looking around this huge brick, and that would make your cuts even less precise. What exactly is the point of this thing? Are you supposed to cut metal from a distance with no concern for precision? I don't know, this thing can't be used to cut metal, and you can't mine with it either. So, what purpose does it serve? Functionally, it's a reskin of the laser cutter, all while lacking the utility of the laser cutter. So the plasma cutter is completely irrelevant. It was a total waste of resources adding this thing to the game. I think it would be a lot cooler if they just give you a regular old plasma cutter. You'd have to carry around the box in your left hand, with the torch in your right hand. That would be extremely immersive and hilarious. Slaughtering NPCs with an industrial tool sure sounds like a lot of fun. And how about we make it actually useful as a tool too? It doesn't have to be a mining tool like the laser cutter. That would be redundant. So instead, how about we make it a tool for slicing through locked doors and safes? That would be awesome, because the lockpicking minigame in Starfield is absolute torture. You can easily waste 15 minutes on a single lock. I can't stand this shit! Bethesda's lockpicking mechanics really peaked in 2006 with Oblivion. It's been downhill ever since. But sadly, the designer ignored the fact that a plasma cutter is a tool. They designed it as a typical heavy weapon. That really takes away from the whole industrial tool vibe. It's supposed to be a tool, but it's built like a weapon. Sometimes it's best to keep things simple. This plasma cutter blows hot gas. It's big and bulky and stupid and ugly, and it serves no purpose. It should overheat and explode itself. Now! I'm putting the plasma cutter in the F tier. Now let's look at the guns from Starfield's biggest DLC, Shattered Space. Right off the bat, these DLC guns leave a bad first impression of what to expect. The Quick Strike, the Starlash, and the Long Fang are nothing more than simple reskins of guns from the base game. The Quick Strike is a reskinned Solstice, the Starlash is a reskinned Equinox, and the Long Fang is a reskinned Orion. There is hardly anything unique about these guns. The textures and colors are just slightly changed to fit the theme of the Varun people. It's not inherently bad to have reskinned weapons, more visual variety is nice. But when I pay $20 for a DLC, I expect new content. I don't want recycled content from the base game. That's just lazy. It feels like no love or effort was put into making these DLC guns. Like, come on, they could have added a bunch of unique experimental weapons to flesh out the arsenal of these weird space cultists. But it seems the guys at Bethesda have run out of creativity juice. They just said screw it, and reskinned 3 energy weapons from the base game. And I wouldn't necessarily mind it so much if there was a bunch of other unique weapons to balance it out. But this DLC only adds 5 new guns, and 3 of them are reskins. So really, there's only 2 new guns. This DLC as a whole is downright awful. Shattered Space now stands as Bethesda's worst rated DLC of all time. It's sitting at a 28% positive rating on Steam. Honestly, the hate is well deserved. I tried playing through Shattered Space myself, and it was a total snooze fest. The story is lame, the quests are boring, the areas and levels feel like a slog to trudge through, the dialogue is generic, and the characters are unlikable and instantly forgettable. Most of all, there's no cool guns to collect. I don't feel like wasting any more time on these lazy reskins. They don't deserve a proper rating. They're going in the lazy reskin tier. Besides those 3 reskins, we got 2, count 'em, 2 unique guns from Shattered Space. That would be the Penumbra and Starstorm. Let's start with the Penumbra. It's some kind of plasma rifle that launches out a big ball of plasma, which obliterates everything in its path. Damn, this shit is kind of OP. It one-taps everything. To be fair, a big plasma explosion like that sure seems like it would do a lot of damage. It feels pretty realistic if you ask me. And most of all, it's fun to use. I love blowing people up with insta-kill plasma balls. I can't really comment on the functionality for this thing. It's a sci-fi plasma gun. And sadly, I don't own a plasma gun, so I have no clue how they work. I can, however, tell you that the outward design could use some tweaks. The stock, for example, looks really uncomfortable. There's not much padding there. Just a bare metal frame digging into your shoulder. Like, come on, people. Futuristic guns are supposed to have good ergonomics. It's a cringe thumbhole stock, too. Thumbhole stocks are dumb and stupid, and I hate them. Well, I don't really hate them that much. I just find it annoying how every single sci-fi gun ever insists on having a thumbhole stock. I don't know who started this trend, but it needs to go away. I'm also wondering what's up with the reciprocating bolt and charging handle. Does this gun have to cycle ammunition like a regular firearm? I have no clue how plasma guns work, but I figured you would just charge up some energy and shoot it. You only need a reciprocating bolt if you need to feed ammunition from a magazine into a chamber. Maybe it loads individual plasma power cells and consumes them with every shot? But it don't look like it. You load this gun with a single plasma fuel cell thingamabob. I figured that would act like a battery, where the gun consumes a chunk of power with each shot. No cycling needed. If there's any plasma gun experts in the comments, feel free to tell me your theory on how these guns would actually work. For once, I think the reload animation looks pretty good. I like how the gun pops open and you quickly snatch the spent plasma cartridge. Then you smoothly slide in a new one and slap the charging handle forward. Hey, that's kinda cool. I can't believe Bethesda made a decent animation for once. But it doesn't make sense as to why you snatch the spent plasma cartridge. Like, dude, it's empty. You don't need to hang on to it. And wouldn't that shit be steaming hot after firing off all that plasma? I don't know. Maybe you can recharge these things like batteries, so that's why you hang on to it? I have no clue. So, I guess I have to give them the benefit of the doubt here. I tell you what though, this advanced sci-fi energy weapon should come with a sci-fi optic to match. Like dude, why are we still using basic iron sights in 2330? Fancy energy weapons like this should have fancy sci-fi optics to match. Overall though, I think the Penumbra is okay. I don't feel very strongly about it. It's not that bad, but I can't say it's that great either. It's kinda mid, so I'll put the Penumbra in the C tier. The other new Varun weapon is the Starstorm. It's a particle beam Gatling gun. It reminds me of the Gatling laser from Fallout 4, but instead of lasers, it shoots particle beams or whatever. I don't know how exactly that works, but I can tell you that this thing is hideous. It's got the ugliest, most nonsensical knuckle guard I've ever seen. It has a regular trigger guard, with an unnecessary knuckle guard below it, and there's another longer knuckle guard guarding the other knuckle guard. Yo dog, I heard you like knuckle guards. Overall, this thing just looks goofy. The irregular shapes and sharp edges make it look like a randomly generated polygon. I think the worst part are the sharp edges that reach past the pistol grip. This looks like it would dig into your arm while holding the gun, which doesn't seem very comfortable. It's like you're actively being tortured for trying to use this thing. The inflictor from the base game had the same issue. It's got a long, sharp point which serves no purpose other than to impale the user. This is what happens when you try way too hard to make a gun fit a certain aesthetic, without taking practicality into account. They don't care if the weapon is dangerous to the user. They just want to make the gun sharp and angular, because it looks more sci-fi that way. The only possible lore explanation is that the Varun cultists purposely designed their guns to impale the user, as some kind of cultist ritual. You have to inflict pain upon yourself, to inflict pain on others. Such is the way of the Great Serpent. I just made that shit up on the spot, but the writing is still 10 times better than Bethesda. God, this DLC sucks. And I just realized, this gun is using the same animations as the microgun. So, essentially, it's a reskin of the microgun. I guess that means there's only one unique gun in Shattered Space. Literally everything else is a reskin. To be as fair as possible, the function and outward appearance of the Starstorm is different from the microgun. It's not a simple color swap like the other guns. So, I can't say it's a full-on reskin, but they did reuse the animations and overall layout. So it's like half a reskin. Either way, I find that to be kinda lame and boring. I would much rather have an entirely unique gun with new animations. It's especially irritating, because it copies over the dreaded minigun spin-up delay. I've been over this quite a few times on this channel. Miniguns don't have to warm up for a few seconds before they fire. That's a Hollywood myth. It's especially dumb for a futuristic sci-fi particle beam minigun. Like, come on bro, this is supposed to be advanced technology, and you still have to wait for it to spin up. I don't know what else I can say about the Starstorm. It's stupid and ugly, and I don't care to go in depth on its design and function, because it's a bunch of sci-fi nonsense anyway. The Starstorm belongs in the F tier. And there we go. That wraps up everything wrong with the DLC guns in Starfield. Energy weapons included. Overall, these DLC guns are aggressively mid, and a few are outright terrible. Even for the guns that look good on the surface, they're still littered with errors, and have clunky-ass animations that look like they're ported from Fallout 3. There's not a single gun that I would consider to be high quality, or worth your money. And that goes for the DLCs as a whole, really. They all just plain suck, and the ratings reflect that. But what if I told you there's even more? I did cover all the official DLC published by Bethesda, but there's a whole lot of Creation Club content too. At first glance, these designs look pretty good actually. So if you guys would like to see me review the Creation Club guns, leave a comment saying, "Brandy boy please, review the Creation Club slop, and my life will be yours." I may have to shell out like $50 to buy everything, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. It's well worth it for your viewing pleasure. If you guys would like to support me directly, please consider checking out my Patreon. On Patreon, I'll be releasing my videos as early access. A simple like and comment goes a long way too, so be sure to disintegrate that like button, and comment your thoughts down below on what you think about the Starfield energy weapons. Okay, I'll see y'all in the next video.